Hi, everyone. Welcome to Biblical Hebrew with Mona Balogh. That's me. And this is the first lesson in the series. And I'm going to go directly to a share here. And this is what we're going to be learning. We're going to be learning Biblical Hebrew from the Torah scroll. And what I mean by that is the scroll contains the 5 books of Moses. This is the main Bible portion in the Hebrew Bible. So we're going to learn to read. We're also going to learn to write and understand the words of the Hebrew Bible, specifically the Torah, also known as the Pentateuch or the 5 books of Moses. So to begin with, let me go to a booklet that you're going to be able to download. And this booklet will give you all the instructions for what you need to do to learn Hebrew. From the very beginning, if you've never written a Hebrew letter or you've never even seen the Hebrew letters, you're in the right place. Or if you've done both and you want to just learn a somewhat new way of learning Hebrew, biblical Hebrew, you can. Okay, so the question is, why learn Hebrew? So Hebrew is an ancient language that goes back at least 3,500 years to the time of Abraham and Moses. Some suggest that Adam and Eve spoke Hebrew as well. Along with Latin and Greek, Hebrew is a language that helped form our Western civilization. It's the language of the Old Testament, or Tanakh, which is the 5 books of Moses, or the Torah, plus the prophets, plus the writings. It's a sister language of Aramaic, which is spoken by many people in the New Testament. Both languages use the same Hebrew alphabet, so when you learn to read Hebrew, you can read Aramaic as well. Today, there are 2 forms of Hebrew in use. There's modern Hebrew, which is spoken in Israel, and biblical Hebrew, which is much simpler, believe it or not, it's much simpler than modern Hebrew, and it's used by Bible scholars and lay people throughout the world to directly understand the biblical Hebrew texts. So Hebrew is written backwards from right to left, and because of this backwards writing, the scroll of the Torah, consisting of the 5 books of Moses, is rolled out from right to left. Many books written in Hebrew are also written backwards. So starting at what we would consider the back and moving forward towards the left. Hebrew is a sparse language. It has only 22 letters. The letters in Hebrew books are the same, no matter what edition is printed. The vowel sounds, on the other hand, can be variable depending on whether it's modern or biblical Hebrew. The Hebrew, as written in the original Torah scrolls, has no vowel markings and no grammatical signs, such as periods or commas. Also, written Hebrew in the state of Israel today has no vowels, but it does have grammatical signs. And the vowel pronunciation is inferred from how the vowels are pronounced in everyday usage today, or the vernacular. In order to get an idea of how the words sounded in the distant past, we study Hebrew Bibles that are written with traditional, also called the Masoretic, vowel sounds passed down from generation to generation. These voweled Masoretic Bibles are also grammatical signs, and you have the trope marks for the singing of the verses in the synagogue. In biblical times, the Torah was read out loud to gatherings of Israelites just a few times a year, usually during religious festivals, specifically Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot. At these gatherings, the Torah was read with the vowel pronunciation particular to that era. But the Hebrew letters always stayed the same, no matter what. So this Torah that you see here is the same Torah that our ancestors saw 3,500 years ago. So when you learn biblical Hebrew, you learn the same words and sounds heard thousands of years ago and throughout the past millennia. You'll learn the Hebrew alphabet, along with the traditional vowel sounds and how to use them, as well as how to read and understand the words. So Hebrew is built from a vocabulary of root words. So the word for root in Hebrew is shoresh. The shoresh is made up of 2 or 3 letters, Hebrew letters, and there are about 100 main Hebrew roots in biblical Hebrew. Once you know the basic building blocks or shoresh words, you can then build multiple compound words That's a fun part of Hebrew, of biblical Hebrew especially, is the words don't change. The meaning changes slightly around the root, but the roots remain the roots. And then you can figure out what they mean. So it's just a matter of practice to be able to read directly from the Hebrew texts. Okay, so this is the instruction given in this book and in this series of lessons. It's based on the way Hebrew is read today in the synagogue, with the pronunciation most used throughout the world. And here is the order of each lesson. You say the pronunciation, you write out and say the 22 Hebrew letters. You write out and say the 5 sophit or final forms. You write out the vowels. You write out and say the 4 dagesh forms and 2 dot forms. Then you write out the prefixes. Those are words that come before, or actually letters that come before the root word. And then you write out the suffixes which come after the root word. So let's get started. Hebrew pronunciation. Ah, as in father. Eh, as in red. A, as in hay. I, as in sit. O, as in so. U, as in Sue. I, as in I. A, as in hay. E, as in ski. Oi, as in boy. Ui, as in buoy. As in loch or bach. Aw, sort of like the aw sound you make when the doctor tells you to stick out your tongue and go aw, but it's even further back in the throat. This sound doesn't have an actual English equivalent, but in Hebrew, it's referred to as a guttural sound as it comes up from the gut, or in this case, the back of your throat, aw. Ts, as in Mr. Katz or pizza. The t sound, as in Thomas, it's actually a th, but it's pronounced as the t, as in Thomas. Originally, this th was pronounced as we do today in English, as in thin, Sabbath, or Beth Israel, but today it's pronounced mostly as a t. And then when you see the apostrophe, is when a syllable is marked with an apostrophe, it makes the sound of the letter. So b makes the b sound b, g makes the g sound g, as in gorilla, d makes the d sound d, and so on, as used with this vowel marking called a shva. All right, so we'll go through that every lesson, the beginning of each lesson. Here are the letters. Aleph is silent, and that's how you spell it in English. Beit makes the b sound, beit. Gimel makes the g sound, gimel. Dalet, d, dalet. Hey, h, hey. Vav, v, vav. Zion, z, zion. Hate, ch, hate. Tate, t, tate. Yud, y, yud. Chaf, ch, chaf. Lamed, l, lamed. Mem, m, mem. Nun, n, nun. Samech, s, samech. Ayin, silent, ayin. Fe, f, fe. Tsadi, ts, tsadi. Kuf, k, kuf. Resh, r, resh. Shin, sh, sheen. Tav, t, tav. So next time, we're going to do all of this, and then we'll keep going. We're going to say the pronunciation here, And then we're going to write out next time and say the 22 Hebrew letters. And again, the more practice you do, the better. So before I leave, let's go to a couple of websites. Let me just go really quickly to the very last page here of this booklet. These are some recommended books. The Schottenstein Interlinear Chumash, complete in one volume. Again, you can download. I'm going to show you how to download this booklet. But anyway, you can get the Schottenstein Interlinear Chumash, which is the 5 books of Moses. Then the Interlinear NIV, it's also interlinear, meaning it shows the Hebrew and then right under it the translation. So that's a Christian version. Then there's something called the Brown Driver Briggs Lexicon, so a Hebrew and English lexicon of the Old Testament, Brown Driver Briggs. And then Hine, which is a biblical Hebrew workbook called Biblical Hebrew, the Practical Way by Rahel Halabe, is going to be our textbook, or our workbook. The Torah is our textbook. All right, let's get out of this. And now let's go to the website that you're going to be using. So this is studytorah.com. And here in the first page, you'll see the 10 Commandments. It's a shortened form. I'm going to read this, and you're going to learn how to read this as well. So, Anochi Adonai, that's God, Elohecha, lo yihye lecha Elohim acherim, lo tisa et shem Adonai Elohecha lashaveh, zachor et yom ha-shabbat, kabed et avicha ve'et imecha, lo tirtzach, lo tin'af, lo tignov, lo ta'aneh ve're'echa et shaker, lo tachmod. You may recognize some of these, but by the end of this class, you'll recognize and be able to read and write every one of them and understand them. So also on the studytorah.com website, you can view a reading of the 10 Commandments, and then you can have a download. You can print out a download of the interlinear 10 Commandments, and I'll just show this to you. So this is a PDF of the 10 Commandments. In the interlinear version, interlinear meaning you have the word, and then immediately underneath that word is the transcription. And you'll see as soon as it loads up. Here it goes. So here are the 10 Commandments. Let's get this much larger. All righty, so the 10 Commandments are from Exodus chapter 20, and they're verses 1 through 17 in this version. Now you'll be surprised to know that different Bibles sometimes have different ways of numbering the verses. Okay, this one happens to be from a website called Mechon Mamre. And here we have the 10 Commandments. And I'll read just the first one. So here, it's read from right to left. Here you've got the transliteration, meaning it's how it's pronounced. And then you've got the direct translation. So, Vaydaber Elohim et kol ha-devarim ha-ele lemor, which means, and conveyed did God all the words of these to convey. All righty. So that's that. And so going back to the website, so you're going to be able to read the Aleph Beit, the whole Aleph Beit, and we're going to go to the Hebrew lessons here. And under Hebrew lessons, you can download. So this was a class that was done with young people, but you can download here a PDF of the Hebrew lesson booklet, which is what I read from initially. All right, so let's go here to Mechon Mamre, and this is where we're going to be doing a lot of our work as well as on the board. So Mechon Mamre lists, you go to the Bible and you can see all of the books of the Hebrew Bible. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy are the 5 books of Moses, or the Torah, which is what we're going to be actually learning from. And then you've got all the other books from the Hebrew Bible. And then you can go to the various chapters. In this case, I've got Bereshit, which is Genesis, and I've got Genesis 1. And that's where we're going to start all the lessons. All right, so we've got Bereshit. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And here's the words in Hebrew. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. All righty. So that's going to be our lesson for today. But please go ahead and log into studytorah.com and download the PDF of the Hebrew lesson booklet under Hebrew lessons. And we'll get started next week. All right. Signing off, and we'll see you next week. Shalom.